It is 6:32, and I call this meeting to order. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Store. Yeah. Esri,
Present.
Hurtado,
Here.
King,
Here.
Patterson. Paul's not here. Thorsland.
Here. All right, we have a quorum with one member absent. I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda and addendum.
So moved.
Moved by Stephanie,
Second.
by Mary King. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that's approved. We have the minutes for May 6, 2021. I'd entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved, Esri.
Moved by Aaron, a second. Second by Kyle. Thank you very much. Is there any comments, changes, or addendums that anyone would like to make or saw? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. All right, we're going to go to public participation, which is being accepted through Zoom. I have 3 participants in the attendees column. I should be able to bring over one. One is listed as 217, ends in 56. I'm going to unmute you. And if you could state your name so we know who you are. Hello, who is this? Yeah, you have to unmute yourself. Looks like you're calling in on a phone. All right, again, I'm talking to the phone number ending in 1056. If you can unmute yourself, you can talk. If not, we'll give you a few minutes and we'll come back to you. All right, we'll get back to you in a minute. I'm now clicking on Cheryl Burr. Cheryl, if you can unmute yourself. Can you hear me? Hello, we hear you just fine. Thank you for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
You have about 5 minutes. I don't time anybody, but the floor is yours, Cheryl.
Okay, we are here. I am here with some neighbors, and we are here under the new business section of the proposed change for North Walnut Lane in Mahomet, Illinois. And we provided 4 letters from our neighbors in this area. Do you know if you were able to receive those letters?
Yes, we have those, and we have hard copies actually on our desk right now, as well as electronic. So.
Okay. So I won't summarize all of those, but we are protesting that recommendation to change our name of our cul-de-sac. We have only 7 houses on our cul-de-sac, but we do have people who have lived here 40, 50 years. Have been at that address for that period of time. We have some people who are new that just recently changed their address. And we have looked into the reason for this proposal. We realize there are 3 addresses in question where there has been some problem with delivery. We don't see that there's been any problem with emergency services, just some deliveries. When I looked at the Champaign County Incorporated Areas street addressing standards, part of which was sent to us, I did find several ways that I feel like we can make some changes based on those standards before we have to change an unincorporated address. Should I go through those?
We have those as well. If you want to be brief about it, I'd certainly allow you to summarize.
Okay. We do have, there's one address that's doubled on the South Walnut side. That does not even face Walnut Street. The driveway and the front of the house are on South Division. We feel that that address could be changed and that would eliminate one problem. We feel that South Walnut Street is a street that meanders and it does make a curve. So we wondered if the houses that on the curve that actually face in a different direction should be renumbered so that they fit with the numbering grid more appropriately. We also have one house in our subdivision or cul-de-sac that is not properly numbered. if that were to be properly numbered, that would eliminate the third conflicted address.
Very good. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Nope, I believe that is good.
We just really would appreciate not having to change our address because it's going to be very costly to a lot of people to change all their legal things such as trusts, etc. And no one wants to have to hire a lawyer to take care of that.
Who's speaking now? If you could just state your name too, just so we can get it on the minutes.
Yes, my name is Maren, Maren, Brucker, Brucker.
All right, thank you very much for that. Do you have anything else you would like to add?
I think our letters pretty much have explained what we feel and would really appreciate not having to change our address.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to mute you right now, if you would be kind enough to mute yourself as well. If you want to stick around, please do, for when we talk about this later, in case anyone on the board has a question. That would
Okay.
be great.
I'm just going to say I'm not sure I'm seeing where I can mute myself on this. Oh, there it is.
All right, thank you. All right, I'm now going to go back to the phone number that ends in 1056. If you've found a way to unmute yourself, let us know who you are. There you go. It looks like you did. And could you state your name?
Sure. My name is Scott Berge, and I'm just here to listen to one of the amendments for the zoning code for the agronomic research facility.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Scott. Thanks for letting us know what you're here for and that you're here. And feel free, yes, indeed, to stay. Do you have anything you want to talk about that right now?
No, I don't. I'm just here to listen, but appreciate it. And sorry for the technical difficulty earlier.
No problem. Totally understood. All right, I'm going to ask you to mute yourself, and I will do the same on this end. And stick around, and you'll be able to see we're not taking an official vote tonight, but we will have discussion. All right, the next person I see is Zules, E.E. Zules. I hope I'm saying that reasonably well. If you want to go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, this is Elmer Zules.
Hello, Elmer. The floor is yours.
I'm also from Walnut Lane, North Walnut Lane near Mahomet. And we're also against the idea that we have to change our name of our street. And the biggest reason is we are North Walnut Lane, Mahomet, and the other location is South Walnut Street. So there's a difference in the name of the street, and one's a lane and one's a street. The other is north and the other is south. So that's the biggest problem that we have with the idea that we have to change.
All right, thank you. Is there anything else you want to add? We do have the letters in case you didn't hear earlier. And we have hard copies here, so the board has read all those.
I heard everything. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't see anyone else in attendees right now. I'll let people continue to listen in. Stay as long as you want. And again, if we have any questions later on from the board, if you're still here, we might want to ask. So thank you for being patient and working with the technology tonight. All right, with that, I'm going to close public participation and move on to communications. Is there any communications from any members of the board? Mr. Storr.
It's dead. Okay, all right. Unless Dr. Furtado is going to bring this up, I think that we had discussed at one time, a few of us, about whether to bring environmental topics that that would be likely to be proposals that would likely to be funded through the American Rescue Plan Act, and consider those and discuss those here at the Environment and Land Use Committee. And I'd like to propose that we do that.
I would be in agreement with you, Chris. I think most of the panel would be. There's been some talk among myself and one other member about potential discussion in September. And we could also add, if September's not enough, an additional meeting just for the Eluc committee, maybe the next week after that, after the cow, because it would still be before the county board. So we'll try to arrange that with staff. And I'll begin one of my coughing fits shortly. But otherwise, thank you for bringing that up, and I wholeheartedly agree. Is there any other communications tonight? This is like a cross between a panel show and a radio show. It's kind of interesting to do. So, all right. Our next caller is, what's the secret word? Number 7, new business. This is for information only. Susan has an update, I think, for us on the Mahomet Aquifer Council update. Susan, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Yes. This is an update for your information and advance notice that in about 2 or 3 months, possibly from now, the governor will appoint or be in a position to likely choose to appoint members to a 25-member Mahomet Aquifer Council. And it will include 25 members, and the responsibilities were listed in the memo and include many of the things such as review, evaluate, and make recommendations regarding laws, regulations, and procedures that relate to the aquifer, to evaluate and make recommendations about the state efforts to implement this act that relate to the quality of the Mahomet Aquifer, and to review, evaluate, and make recommendations regarding certain current and potential contamination threats to the water quality of the Mahomet Aquifer. And finally, to make recommendations relating to actions that might be taken to ensure long-term protection of the Mahomet Aquifer. So this is, allows for 7 members representing local government bodies located over the Mahomet Aquifer to be appointed by the governor. So this is brought forward to you for your information and for you to decide how you want to proceed from here. And if you have questions that you want me to follow up on, or John, that certainly is up to you. I wanted you to have this notice, though.
Chair? Thank you. I'd like to suggest that that John, what is the name of your department?
The Department of Planning and Zoning. Department of Planning and Zoning.
That the Department of Planning and Zoning would inquire about how to ask for representation from Champaign County on that on the new Mahomet Aquifer Council, and that so that the county board might seek to have a representative on that council. If it pleased the rest of the members of the Environment and Land Use Committee.
I think I have no opposition to that. I don't think any other member does. So thank you, Chris, for bringing it up, and staff, John, for getting the assignment, I guess, willingly. I think that would be a very appropriate thing. We cover almost the entire aquifer. Kyle?
So it says 7 members
Mhm.
representing local government bodies located over the Mahomet Aquifer. Does that mean elected officials, or is that just somebody who could be staff?
Uh, It's not clear from this, but if you're representing a local government, you could be appointed or elected. But yeah, there's lots of questions that come up, and this is a limited number of government spots for 15 counties with municipalities. So it could be highly competitive, and you may want to choose to pursue a regional approach to this. And so, yeah, I've been giving this a lot of thought. I don't have answers, but this is advance notice for you, and it would make sense to me to pursue some kind of regional approach to selecting a representative.
And did you say when this is going to be done by, like what the deadline is?
May 21st, 30 days, and then another 60 days. So it's like a 3-month kind of thing where the governor, if he's going to take action, has to act within that period. And it's unlikely to be vetoed, so it's likely to be enacted. And so I would guess by this August or September, there could, this is plenty of time to figure out how to approach this, I guess, and contact maybe the sponsor's office to find out what if any suggestions he may have, or she, about getting on the governor's radar for being appointed. Now, this will be a council that's supported by the Illinois EPA with some kind of stipend offered to the person. Anyway, yeah.
And you can read the act is in the packet tonight, and it talks about how they're going to, in very vague terms, how they're going to put this together. But there's not a lot of definition. When you say regional, you're thinking of maybe trying to find our adjoining counties and come to consensus of who our rep may be.
My thoughts, yeah, I was just thinking, well, the task force that existed back in 2017, 2018 was chaired by the city of Champaign, and there are like interested parties here in Champaign County. So maybe one, I don't know. I mean, you wouldn't want to just discount the city of Champaign, for example, of having interest in being represented on such a council. So it just makes sense to me to approach this in a sort of collaborative way so that we're not competing with each other.
Okay, any other questions for Susan? All right, thank you very much, Susan. Item 8, new business. This is to be approved by Eluc. This is the recreation and entertainment license for the Fisher Community Fair, 226 East Sangamon Avenue, Fisher, and it's July 6th through the 10th, and the application is in your packet. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Essery.
Moved by Aaron, a second. Second by Mary King. Is there any discussion on this? Any questions for John? I think, raise your hand if you haven't gone to the Fisher Fair at least once in your life. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that is approved. And that was very good. Okay, the next item is new business, and this is what Mr. Berge is here for, so thanks for hanging on. This is to be received and placed on file to allow for the 30-day review period, but I think we'll have some discussion and take sort of a straw poll, preliminary kind of vote before we stick this on the shelf for 30 days. It is zoning case 008 AT21 to amend the Champaign County zoning ordinance by amending section 5.2 by adding agronomic research and training facility as a special use permit in the Ag 1 agriculture and Ag 2 agriculture zoning districts. First, I'd entertain a motion to put that on file. I guess I need a motion for that. Sure, we got a sure from Chris Storr and a second from Aaron. Let's just take a vote to put it on file. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, so it's on file, but staff sort of requested when we talked about this sort of take a preliminary vote on this. We know it came out of ZBA with a recommended. That's in your packet tonight. I think it was 4-1. I believe I have the right vote on that, correct? With one member absent that night. There was an explanation, if you're not familiar with the ZBA findings of how it fits in with the Land Resource Management Plan and the compatibility with the other stated goals. That's how ZBA works. It's on page 22 here. Is there any questions for John about that, or any more questions about this at all? We had a good discussion, I think, about this in our meeting a month or two ago. Scott is here if anyone has any questions for Scott. I could bring Scott back on. Anyone have any questions? If not, just as a way of straw poll, just aye for if you would be in favor of it. Aye. And those that maybe wouldn't be? Any? All right, so the record can reflect that the sort of preliminary vote was in favor of this. It'll be on hold for 30 days so that people can comment and review, and it'll come back up again in the next meeting, which is actually not the next meeting, right? Because there's no July. So it'll be in the August meeting that we vote. So Scott, if you're listening, there's no July committee meetings. We only have the county board meeting in July. And so this will be on the August ELOC schedule. So thank you for staying tuned in. And if there's nothing more on that, let's move on to item 10. This is new business, items to be recommended to the county board. This is a proposed change of street name for Walnut Lane. And before we take a motion on this, I think what I would like to propose is we've got some good feedback from people tonight, and we've got correspondence from a lot of these people. And I heard some and read some reasonable approaches to solving this problem. And I think that I would like to see more time for this to be discussed. Staff, the village, and the residents in the unincorporated part. It seems to me that in the past there was the south designating the one in the village and a north designating the Walnut above, and one is a street and one is a lane. And we've gotten some public input tonight that, aside from Amazon and Grubhub, that maybe there hasn't been a whole lot of issues with this. So I'd like to know more, and I wish that we had on the call tonight people from the village who, I believe they brought it up, right? Yeah, John is indicating that it was the village who brought this up as to some alternative solution to renaming Walnut Lane outside of the village. There's impacts on both sides. I understand that Walnut Lane, North Walnut Lane, as it was formerly called, changed its name about 5 years ago to just Walnut Lane. But I'm not sure, does anyone, John, do you know why the north was dropped? Is there any information?
Walnut Lane has never officially been named North Walnut Lane.
Okay.
It's been explained to me that the village at one point started the south-north differentiation. They've done away with their south differentiation. So the village would tell you that the village the street in their village is simply Walnut Street. Walnut Lane has only ever been Walnut Lane. Although when you go into the tax records, the old tax records, there was a north appended to it, and no one actually knows exactly how that happened. But it's not the official name of the street. So I can't shed much light on that. It is very confusing.
So,
And I understand that the residents on Walnut Lane to this day call it North Walnut Lane. I understand that. But their street sign says Walnut Lane, and the original plat said simply Walnut Lane. There was no north.
so there's suggested names. Would it be possible to add a suggested name and allow this to cook for a while for public comment? And I don't know how the committee would feel. Again, I'm not kicking this out for a vote, but it's an idea to officially name it North Walnut Lane as one of the possible suggestions to that list. I forget, there were some interesting names that were provided. Hazelnut, I think, was one of them. And I don't drink coffee anymore, but I never drank hazelnut coffee.
Just out of curiosity, who came up with hazelnut? Did
Was
we
this
or did
RPC
they
or-
or?
This GIS staff
Okay.
came up with a bunch of names, simply names that would fit the standard. It's not like they're hazelnut supporters. But I am impressed more every day how difficult it is to come up with new street names that meet these standards. It is no small task. Now, regarding the suggestion of renaming it North Walnut Lane, from a staff perspective, and I've talked to the GIS staff, that would be worse than keeping Walnut Lane. Worse. It would be more out of conformance from the addressing standards. Walnut Lane is out of conformance. North Walnut Lane is even more out of conformance. The committee can do what it wants, but that's the staff view.
Can you explain why adding north is more out of compliance?
The north-south differentiation is supposed to happen when certain standards are met. Those standards are not met in this instance. It might seem convenient to use north, but it's not in compliance with the addressing standards. Let's see. And I think that's under section 2.4.4, street name post direction assignment. No, it would be,
Page 26 and 27, right? that you're
yes,
looking at?
yes. I can report back to the committee because I want to be specific about that, but I think it has to do with when there is a,
So it's 241Z, opposite direction in street name?
Well-
Compass
No,
direction
no,
shall not be
I think, John,
assigned.
you're right with the 2.4.4. And yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense because there's not a corresponding south Walnut Lane. So I remember we've done this before with when they expanded Lincoln Avenue and the road that went to the side that was Lincoln Avenue, we had to change the name. And I know that METCAD was consulted with. Has METCAD been consulted with about that? And what feedback did they give?
METCAD would be on board with Hazelnut. They would not be on board with keeping it Walnut Lane.
Do we know what triggered the village to take this up?
As it has been explained to me, there were a number of miscues on delivery packages in the past year. There haven't been any emergency services miscues that I'm aware of. No one has said that. It's been mostly the package delivery.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, that makes a lot of sense. Somebody who has many years of experience delivery driving, like I understand how this could create confusion. And, yeah, there hasn't been a mix-up with emergency services, but there's only 7 homes. I don't think that's the type of thing that you wait to happen before you take action. So I feel generally pretty supportive of this.
That is of Hazelnut.
Can I ask real quick, how many people would be affected if Walnut Street was to change its name within the village of Mahomet? Do we know that?
I know that there's at least, there's more than twice as many residential lots on Walnut Street. Now, as some of the public participation commenters explained, not all of the houses facing Walnut Street in Mahomet have an address on Walnut Street. So it's hard to say exactly, but there are many more homes, especially in the curving part of Walnut Street in Mahomet. There are a lot of lots.
Thanks.
And Walnut Street existed before Walnut Lane.
And John, just for my information, the reason you say Walnut Lane is out of conformance is because it was platted later, correct? I mean, if there was no Walnut Street in Mahomet, then Walnut Lane would be okay?
Yes,
with
and the reason it's not
standards?
okay is there's 2 streets with the same primary name, Walnut. And the fact that one is a street and one is a lane doesn't make it conform because the primary name is the same.
Well, I'm just saying because Walnut Street was platted first.
Yes.
So to a degree, I mean, not saying I like the fact or the idea of having to make these people change their address and everything like that. I'm not saying that, but I guess to a degree, since this affects less people and it was platted later, now granted it was platted before these standards came into effect in this county, but if we're going to make one or the other change their name, their address, the street name, it only makes sense to change what is now Walnut Lane to whatever we would change it to, whatever it would be changed to me. I'm not, the idea of the north and south, that is something that is new to me reading these letters tonight. And if just a comment, if I did try my phone app here real quick, my map app, and it pulls up North Walnut Lane and South Walnut Street in Mahomet. So
Yeah, I have exactly that. That's what I just did. And my suggestions are South Walnut Street, North Walnut Lane, or East Walnut Creek Court.
So I understand, I guess, the idea of they've done away with the north and the south and stuff too, but I guess wanted to make that comment that my phone app, it's an iPhone, and I forget which, it's the one that comes with the phone. It's not Google Maps. I forget which app they're actually kind of using, or if it's truly their own now, but it does pull up North Walnut Lane and South Walnut Street.
And
so
for
just
the
to
Android people,
So that's all I've got to say. Thanks.
yeah, and mine's an Android, and it did the same. It pulled up the same names and added the beach court. Yeah.
Hey, could we suspend the rules? That gentleman with the C has had his hand up for like a while, I can't, sorry. Could we maybe suspend the rules and let them speak?
Yeah. If the board's happy, I'd like to bring Cheryl back, and then maybe Ernie as well, or Cheryl?
Yes, I'm going to defer to Maren Brucker.
I just have one thing to say. We were forced when 911 came in to change it to North Walnut Lane. All of the houses here had single digits. We were to Walnut Lane, and for years I fought it until they forced me from the post office to change it to 914 North Walnut Lane. So we were never that before. And I don't know why we should need to change it now.
So do you know when this was? Do you recall?
Whenever 9/11 came in and they plotted everything out, they forced us to change it to North Walnut Lane. At that time, we had single digit numbers and we were Walnut Lane, period. And they forced us into 914 North Walnut Lane. Whenever 9/11 came into being is when they forced us into it.
Yeah, I
I
would
guess
like to
that's all
know
I have
more
to
about that.
say.
Yeah, I think our point being, it is officially North Walnut Lane. It then got changed, and I've only been here 5 years, and I always thought it was North Walnut Lane. Our sign does not say North Walnut Lane. And I understand that they are trying to change, to get rid of all the prefix directional things in Mahomet. If you are not on the meridian and baseline, you should not have a north, south, east, or west in your address. I understand that, but there's a lot of the standards that are not being followed in Mahomet as far as meandering streets and whatnot. There's a lot of work to be done. This isn't the only situation, but since we are unincorporated, I feel like we stand out differently than South Walnut Lane or South Walnut Street or just plain Walnut Street. Yeah, it's not the only issue out there. I think there's some other things that we can address before having to make this area change again, after they
Yeah.
already did have to make a change. It was before my time, but they did have to make that change already.
I guess that's all we have to
Yeah.
say.
All right, thank you. I'd be interested in knowing when that came through and if there's any kind of documentation for that. Mr. Zules, did you have anything you want to add since we're opening up the floor to residents and you're the other resident that is on? Yeah, you'll have to unmute yourself if you want to talk. If you're still listening. Yep,
Okay, there I am.
there you are.
Okay, the only comment I had to say is our street numbering system. Now where I am at 916 North Walnut Lane, and in Mahomet they have a 916 South or Walnut Street, and actually a 916 is the one that faces Division Street. But why, if we have 916 on one end of the street and 916 on the other end of the street, why is it not north and south? How can we have numbers that are that are on the same numbering system? I always thought our numbering system went along with the county roads system, but I could be mistaken on that. Is that all right?
That sounds good. Thank you for that input too. Is there anything, since we've opened up the floor, that the board wants to ask either resident? All right, I don't hear anything. All right, I'm going to ask you folks to mute again, if you don't mind. Thank you very much. More discussion from the board. Aaron?
Yes, thanks. John, do you by chance remember when 911 came in?
I believe it was the mid-90s.
That's what I was kind of thinking, because I do remember when we had to go from a P.O. Box, or Rural Route 1, P.O. Box 45 was my address, to now 1987 County Road 1400 North. I guess so if they were made a change to North Walnut, then that does seem a little bit strange. And why that isn't kind of, I guess, recorded or something like that somewhere. But, and yeah, it does seem kind of strange to have to make them change again, but yet, I guess what I'm saying is I'd like maybe at least another, well, actually it'll be 2 months, I guess, for us to ponder on this. I would agree with you on that, Eric, at this point in time, and maybe get a little more information and dates and everything, and try and find out about the 911, changing it to North Walnut Street, and maybe try and find out. Well, I guess John's already answered the idea that it used to be South Walnut Street, but the South has been dropped by this village of Mahomet, that's their ability to do that. So that we can't do anything about, of course.
Yeah, I have a few things, if I could trouble staff in the time. I think we're going to table this until the August meeting. One would be if you could find out when MetCat asked for this number change, and if that also was the time when the North was added. You say it's not on any of the maps, the plats? It just shows it as Walnut?
That's right.
So, we have had public comment here that MetCat came in and changed the 1, 2, 3 to these, I guess they're all 900s now. And apparently asked that North be added to it, which sounds like a, almost reasonable thing for them to ask if they thought there was confusion. So that would be one thing I'd really like to know about. The other thing I'd like to do is have the residents that are on the street in question, Walnut Lane or North Walnut Lane, been shown the GIS suggested alternate names. Have they had a chance to comment on those names other than what's in the packet?
I haven't shared that with them,
Okay.
but no.
Is there a way we could send that to the residents
Sure.
and ask them to, do a ranked 1, 2, 3 of proposed names if we choose to vote to change this, and there appears to be some pressure to do that. If we have to do it, I'd like to do what the majority of the residents, or at least would be the least unhappy with, if that makes any sense. And if you folks are listening, look for that. I know that's work for you in the office, but I think it would be a fair thing to do. And to find out this information about this MetCat thing, I'm interested in that. I know, like Aaron said, that they came in and changed many, many rural addresses.
I will do my best to find out about the 911 change, but I would be very surprised if we find any records.
Yeah, I
But-
don't disagree with that.
That
but-
is a big thing that I want to look for. So
Okay, I hope that's amenable to the board.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough one. I like, if they changed the name of my mom's street, if they changed Crestwood Lane in Northfield, Ohio, I would just be like, I'd be at the meeting crying probably. So I totally get the attachment. I mean, to a street that I haven't even lived on in, a long time. So I get that, and how you balance that on people's safety. And I have to admit, I'm not that convinced about the package thing, because let's just be real, in the last year, lots of packages got delivered to the wrong places, and it had nothing to do, you know what I mean? There was just a lot more packages. So I'm not entirely convinced of that argument. The safety of people, to me, like the MetCat thing, is the thing that would weigh the most. I don't know. I feel like if we wait 2 months, it's not going to be an easier decision in 2 months. You know what I mean? And I remember the Lincoln Street one was, weirdly one of the toughest votes, I think, that I've taken on this board, which it doesn't seem, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a sap, but I'd be okay with waiting and maybe trying to find out some of those answers.
Yeah, I think that, I'm interested in this MetCat thing. When I was young, I remember my dad getting very angry because we went from 9 Roosevelt Avenue to 104, and he had just gotten 250 brand new checks that he had to pen out the address on. And it was a similar emergency services request because there was the single digits started on every section of it again, and so it was impossible to know where you were. I'm with you on the package thing. I don't know how many packages I've taken to my neighbors' houses in the past year. But what I really want to be is as fair as possible. And for the residents on Walnut Lane or North Walnut Lane, the folks that we're responsible for in the unincorporated part, if we have to make a change, I want as much input from them as possible. And I think this will give us time to get their input and let them ponder what, they may be in the future on their checks and on their letterheads and in their documents. To be fair, I don't know quite, we have this assumed motivation from the village, and we didn't have any actually official input from MetCat about this, right? Did they?
At the staff level, we have discussed it with MetCad.
Okay, and they strongly wished for a name change?
MetCat is there for public safety. This is, without a doubt, a situation that doesn't match the standards.
Yeah.
And so they're always going to be on the side of what's best for public
and
safety.
I understand that they would err on the side of public safety, so that is their job. So, do we need a motion to table this? I think we do.
I think it would be better to continue it to August, because if you table
Yeah.
it, it can't come back until it's brought off the
Okay.
table.
All right, so I would entertain a motion to continue this item until the August ELOC meeting with the request that we've made of staff to do. Get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Kyle and a second by Mary King. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, thank you. Difficult, very difficult subject, as you say, but hopefully we can come to something that works for as many people as possible. All right, thank you, and thank you to the folks who dialed in to Radio ELOC for your comments. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to do that, and perhaps we'll get to see you in person in August. Moving on to item 11, other business. John has provided us with the monthly reports for April. Thank you very much. That's knowing the work that goes into those. That's very good. You're almost caught up. Do you have anything you want to add to those? All right, they speak for themselves. The chair's report will speak for itself in that I have none. Yeah, please turn your mic on, Chris, for the record.
Thank you. I did have a note here on page 32. 470 complaints and violations remain open at the end of April. Is that seems like quite a lot.
It is quite a lot. Now, on the other hand, it's less than we're open at the end of 2020. Not by much, but it is less. And this is why we provide you these numbers. The 470 goes back to, at the end of 2004, there were 312. So just to put it into perspective, in 2020, we had 113 new complaints. We resolved 77 complaints and 17 violations, and that was a very good year. But 77 and 17 only totals 94. This is one of the problems we have. Even in a good year, when we get a lot of things done, it's generally less than the total that comes in. And we have one person that works on this full time.
I thank you for trying to keep up with the load.
It really goes back to 2004. There was a 5-year period. We went through 4 directors in 5 years, and we were more intent at that time on keeping permits approved in a timely way. And we built up this backlog that we have never been able to get rid of.
Yeah, when I was on ZBA, this was a topic. And I started in 2007, I think, on ZBA, and you were here. And it was
Can-
Any other questions, Chris?
Can I ask a
Yeah.
financial question? Would it be a viable strategy to try to reduce the backlog with short-time help?
We have tried that before with interns, and interns are great. They'll go out and they'll investigate, but we don't let letters from interns go to citizens without them being vetted by senior staff. And, you know, if you had a senior staff person to work with interns just on those projects, that might get rid of it. Adding another full-time staff person that is responsible,
Right.
that is hired to go to court to give testimony, that's what we need.
I mean, I guess that's more what I wasn't necessarily thinking an intern. I was thinking more a real staff person, but maybe a real staff line that we didn't maybe necessarily anticipate would be there forever. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, you could do that approach. Short time, you know,
Yeah.
we're going to have extra staff to get this thing worked down. That would be one approach.
That might be something you should think about as we go into the budget process.
To be fair, you'd have to make the staff that you hire aware of that short-term
Yes,
approach.
yes, yes, of course you would, yes. But I mean, we have special project staff, right now. We have the folks we're carrying for the ERP, we have, we do that, so. Okay,
And I will just acknowledge for the record that I think just about every year I've been on the county board, John has asked the county board for a new staff person.
All right, thank you. My only part of the chair's report I was going to say is thank you for all coming in person tonight. The hybrid model with public input worked fairly well. I'm not sure how long this will last. This was the joke that Will made in IT, that we'll get all good with this and then it'll change again. But I appreciate everybody doing the best they can to stay safe and getting back in person. Kyle?
One suggestion would be that if you were facing us, because this is kind of similar to when they had the 27 board members, I think, but the board chair was up front, kind of the way Susan's sitting, facing everybody else. Because I feel like, you're getting kind of old, you're back. I'm waiting on you.
The chair's creaky report. When I was on ZBA, we had an arch with the principals, and then the rest of the board was out here. We used the same room as the board used. It was easier to address who was speaking. We do a lot of this with the horseshoe now. Who's talking, like the little bird that sips from the cup. So yeah, I'm sure there's a way we could maybe do that. Mary actually spoke of this before all of you were here. So the feng shui is important, I understand. So maybe let Mary use her better judgment. I think she had some good ideas. And I think we can set it up in a safe way and still get everyone. Right now, of course, we have to get everyone on the cameras. So that's the important part, and that may change. But I agree. This is a made-for-TV special and not particularly conducive for everybody else. So, and we're short some functioning cameras right now. So this is why we have 2 that work of the 4, I think, that are in the room. So, and just a thank you to MC and Will for working through all this stuff for us, and anyone else who helped get this to work, because it worked much better than I hoped for, and I had high hopes. Moving on, there's nothing to put on the consent agenda, and without objection, I would call this meeting adjourned at 7:27.